All right. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today, in this video, I would like to talk about the current gear that I use. I know it's 2022. Some of the gear I use could be 3 to 4 years old at least. We've got various lenses, a couple of cameras, but we'll go over it. We'll show some of the photos we've taken over the years with it. I'll talk a little bit about why I choose, what it is that I use, whether it's lights, lenses, what have it. And yeah, just kind of give you scenarios on what options and locations it might be good to shoot in. Now, any of the gear that I use doesn't mean it's 100% specific to what I do. There's various lenses, various camera brands. I don't have to be Sony, Nikon, Canon, what have it. It doesn't matter the name on the camera. It's just whatever can get the job done right for you. So let's go ahead and start off with the camera body. I currently use the Sony a7 III. This particular model that I have right here, I bought the Mikey uh, battery grip from Amazon. The reviews on it were mostly pretty well, between I would say 4 and 5 stars. I haven't had any problems with it. I'm able to use it horizontal or flip it over and use it vertical. Still have a shutter speed button and an aperture button, and I'm able to have an AF on button in the back, which I like to use for my focusing, and click the shutter uh, and be able to fire at will. So just real quickly, I'll go over the main reason why I like to use my a7 III. Um, I started off shooting the a6000. I say started off. That was my first Sony version. I started off using the D3300 about 8 years ago. I bought it from Best Buy. Uh, then come to find out, when I'm wanting to use high speed sync, faster shutter speeds, and just various different scenarios I wanted to shoot in, I learned that that camera wouldn't get it done for me. So I feel like the D7000, 7100, the D610, D750, A6000, A6300, and 6400. I sold my A6400 about a month ago, and finally now purchased my second A7 III, which I'm filming on right now at the moment. But after going through all those cameras, the main reason I'm at where I am today, locking onto this camera, is one, the autofocus is pretty stunning. You can cover almost the entire screen with your autofocus points. It locks onto your eyes and your face. It does a great job of tracking whether it's to or from the camera or left or right. And when it comes to the ISO performance, it has pretty great ISO. You can do a little bit of noise reduction in Lightroom. You can shoot deliverable images up to, I would say, 6400. If you're going over that, you can still do noise reduction, and it might be a little borderline, but I've never had a client complain. Just my personal preference. I don't like to go over 6400. So when I'm shooting private parties, corporate events, things like that, if I get into a spot to where I can't use a lot of different flash capabilities, I'm able to go up to, like I said, 6400 ISO, shoot at 1.4, 1.8, 2.8, anything that allows me to keep my ISO low enough for my personal taste, and I get a nice deliverable photo. So apart from the autofocus and high ISO capabilities, one of the main reasons I use this camera in particular is its high speed sync capabilities, or HSS. So if you're shooting at 2, 3, 4, 5 p.m. and the sun's high in the sky, you need to turn your shutter speed high enough to control your ambient exposure, which allows you to shoot outside of your normal camera's sync speed. Then you're now using high speed sync. After a few years, I began to start to develop my own particular style using this method to get nice contrast, um, nice colors to my photo, and it just gave me lots of options. So if I wanted to shoot natural light, I could. If I had great lighting, I could still incorporate flash if I wanted to. But if it was on a particular bad lighting situation, I could turn my shutter speed and ISO basically to control it however I needed to get a nice darkened down ambient exposure, and then add flash as needed and just get about any job done that I needed to. So again, my Sony a7 III, coupled with the high ISO performance, the high shutter speed capability to shoot in high speed sync, and the autofocus functions and reliability. That's why I still roll with this camera to this day, and even bought a second one about a month ago. Now let's go over our lenses. For number one, I'm going to start with my bread and butter. This right here is the Sony G Master 85 f1.4 lens. Now, I like the 85 because it's pretty good overall, whether you're doing headshots, portraits, you can even use it for video. Um, Having that 1.4 bokeh to where when you're up close enough, totally just annihilating the background, being able to blur everything that's back there. If you're shooting weddings, and let's say maybe it's the first kiss, right after the ceremony, and you've got something in the background you want to blur up. If somebody's got some extra camera stuck back there that you can't control, you can probably blur that out too. Let's say they're doing the first dance, and you got somebody's drunk Uncle Joey in the background who's had too many beers. He's over there stumbling around. Maybe he's got his cell phone pulled out, or I've even seen people with their tablets pulled out in the back trying to take photos or videos of what's going on, and you've got the perfect angle. You've got everything set up. You've got your ambient exposure. You've got your cool details in the background, and you just see this drunk guy over here. Being able to shoot at f1.4, you can help alleviate that from the situation and still get that portfolio shot and printable shot for your client. Now, as I mentioned again with headshots, something like this, you can get far enough away from your client just to get a somewhat cropped in type headshot photo for profiles and corporate uses or whatnot. You don't have to get so close with it to where it distorts your background. Uh, you don't have to make anybody's features on their face or ears or nose, whatever, look bigger with this focal length. It adds a nice compression between them and the background. And the autofocus capabilities are pretty amazing. I would say I get about 98% of shots nailed, whether it's left or right or to and fro of my subjects. My next favorite lens is something I recently picked up. It is the Sony G Master 35 f 1.4 lens. Now, I don't do too many portraits that are wide angle. I love the creative effect you can get sometimes when you're shooting wide angle portraits, whether you're get up close and go down low to your subject, give them kind of, a higher angled, larger than life look. It's a great lens to walk around downtown or anywhere you go on vacation doing street photography. It's kind of one of those good, just overall lenses. If you had to pick one, walking around, doing what you got to do, just kind of documenting different events, it's a great idea to have one. One of my other main lenses is my Tamron 28-75 f2.8. It's a zoom lens. Having an ability to shoot at f2.8 and zoom with a fairly wide angle is the perfect lens for doing wedding candids, corporate candids. Maybe you're doing a business meeting. You can walk around using on-camera flash with this and document just about anything, whether it's daytime or after hours, and get it done for your client. I have another Tamron lens. That's the 70-180. This one is long enough for me able to shoot football, basketball, volleyball. Uh, if I'm doing weddings with it, I can zoom in, capture the real up close looks and laughs and smiles and everything from the bride and the groom. And let's say you're doing a private meeting, there's a few different people at the party who they tell you who are the most important ones. So you're walking around doing different candids and you're using your speed light, getting quick little different group shots. But somebody stands up to make a toast and you can't run across the room. I'm able to zoom all the way in at 180, get a decent shot at f2.8 with blasting out the high ISO. And now my client's going to want to bring me back for next time because I can cover all angles of the session. The last lens I'd like to talk about is my Sony Zeiss 55mm f1.8. Now, this is probably my least used lens out of everything I have. The 50mm is a pretty good focal length. It's not too wide. It's not too telephoto. You're not going to get real crazy compression, but you're not going to get real distorted features when you're shooting portraits or anything like that. But it is also one of the sharpest lenses that I have. It's very difficult for me to compare this to my 35 or 85 or any of my Tamrons and say that anything else is sharper than this. I can take any kind of portrait or candid, zoom in, and over half the time, I want to say this is probably sharper than anything else I have. All right, let's go to lighting real quick. So my main light that I like to use is my Godox AD600, a 600 watt strobe. And this is powerful enough to me to go out and shoot in high speed sync at 1/8000th of a second using a modifier and still get decent light on my subject. That being said, that being so powerful in the daytime, when I bring it in studio, it drops all the way down to 1/128th of a power. And this coupled with gels, modifiers, what have you, I can get just about any lighting done that I can imagine as my main light on all of my different projects. After my Godox AD600, I have the AD200. It's a 200-watt strobe. It's got the same capabilities pretty much as the 600. It's a little bit weaker modeling light, but I'm able to swap this Fresnel head out into a more bulb type head to spread light out more in my modifiers. But having this Fresnel head on there, I'm able to use different modifiers such as my MagMod gear and control different gels, spheres, bounces, and stuff, what have you on it. And I can even put it into a nice bracket and use a lot of my umbrella type modifiers, not just my Bowens mount modifiers that I can plug into my 600. Besides these two more powerful lights, I have the Godox V1, which is the speed light made by Godox, has the round hand on it. And I also have the Godox V862, which I can put a lot of my MagMod gear on, has various modifiers for, and they're great for on-camera flash for doing events, having nice flat lighting. That's something you'd like to do to kind of emulate maybe more of like a film type photography. And just overall, they're lightweight and you can carry around. And as long as it's not super bright outside, you need to darken down the frame, you can get nice different looks with it. For my main modifiers, I like to use my 36-inch Octabox by Easy Glow. It's double diffuse and comes with a deflector plate. I'm currently using it over here to my right now. It has a grid on it. It's got the both double diffusion and it's cascading a nice little light down on here without any hard shadows. I'm able to use this with my 8600 and go out at 4 or 5 o'clock during the day, use high-speed sync, shoot full power, super high shutter speeds, and get some of the best photos I've ever taken. It's pretty common that I go out and use this combo, utilizing high-speed sync, and get some really nice portraits. My current next favorite modifier is my 53-inch Westcott umbrella. I now have the diffusion sock for it. It's currently over here to my left, about 5 feet away from me, bringing a nice little fill light to me in the background. So when I'm shooting in studio, this is a great modifier to have. When I go outdoors, this is not typically what I take with me. I'll have my main 36-inch Octa, but then I'll add MagMod modifiers like the Mag Sphere right here, which adds a nice little spread of light. You could even combine it with the MagMod grids here to help control the spill a little bit in there. You can add these MagMod gel holders to it, which you can slip different gels in like this. In this current case, it's the teal one. You can also use the Mag Beam, which I have right here, which shoots a super wide angle lens. They even have a more telephoto type Fresnel lens here on the front to control your light. And when you're using something like that, you can use your gobos to help control different patterns. So without going too much further into all the tiny little accessories I use here and there, this is the main camera, lenses, lighting and modifiers that I use. I know it's 2022 and this camera is basically about 4 years old. Some of these lights have been out for a few years. There's even new versions of the 80, 200, and 600. Some of my lenses are even a few years old. My 35 is probably the newest one on the market. But regardless of how old something is, regardless of how much you paid for it, if you utilize how to use it to the best of its capabilities, you can get nice, deliverable, professional photos for anybody that's standing in front of your camera. So if you have any questions, comments at all whatsoever on my gear, feel free to leave them down below. Please like, share, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you catch any of my new videos coming soon. And I appreciate everybody who takes the time to make this far in my video.